All right, let's get real for a second. Most of us, whether we admit it or not, spend a lot of time chasing approval. Music. We dress a certain way, say the right things, avoid stepping on toes, all in the hopes that someone will give us that little nod of validation. Music, you're good enough. You belong. You matter. And when we don't get it, it stings. It makes us question ourselves. What did I do wrong? Am I not lovable? Here's the hard truth. If your self-worth is built on other people's approval, you're standing on shaky ground, because the second their attention shifts or their opinion changes, you're left scrambling, empty. Music, anxious, unworthy. Research shows that humans are wired for connection. Music. Our brains interpret social rejection the same way they process physical pain. That's why disapproval hurts. It's not just in our heads, it's in our nervous system. Music. But there's a difference between belonging and fitting in. Belonging means being accepted for who you truly are. Fitting music in, that's twisting yourself into a version you think others will like. Music. And the more you chase approval, the further you drift from real belonging. This is where so many of us get stuck. We think we're searching for belonging, but what we're music actually doing is working overtime to fit in. And let me tell you, there is nothing more exhausting than constantly trying to manage how you're perceived. It's like emotional shape-shifting. You walk into a room, scan the energy, adjust yourself accordingly, speak softer, laugh a little more, hold back that thought that might make people uncomfortable. Before you know it, you spent years, music, curating a version of yourself that's built to be liked, but not necessarily seen. Now, here's where things get tricky. This isn't just about personal experience. Music, there's actual science behind why we do this. Psychologists call it social conformity, and it's an ancient survival mechanism. Our ancestors knew that rejection from the group could mean life or death. Music, so we learn to adapt, to avoid conflict, to make ourselves palatable. But here's the problem. We're not living in small tribes anymore. We're acceptance. Music equals survival. We're navigating a world where we interact with hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, both in person and online. And if our sense, music of self-worth is still tied to that primal need for approval, we're in for a world of emotional whiplash. Let me put it this music way. If someone walked up to you and said, "Hey, I'm going to give you the power to let complete music strangers on the internet determine how you feel about yourself today," you'd laugh, right? You'd say, "No way, that's ridiculous." And yet, isn't that exactly what we do? We let comments, likes, side music glances, and offhand remarks dictate whether we feel loved or not. We hand over our self-worth like it's a raffle ticket, just hoping we'll get called. Music. The people who experience true belonging don't do this. They figured something out that changes everything. Real belonging doesn't require you to be something else. It requires you to be yourself. And I know that sounds simple, maybe even a little cliche, but it's actually one of the hardest things we'll ever do, because music, being yourself, means risking disapproval. It means showing up as the real you and knowing that some people won't get it. Some people won't like it. And music, this is the kicker. It has nothing to do with your worth. So here's what we need to unlearn. The idea that approval equals love. It doesn't. Approval is conditional. It shifts based on expectations, social norms, and what's trending in the moment. Love, the kind we're all actually searching for, is music, steady. It doesn't disappear when you say the wrong thing or when you disappoint someone. And music, it sure as hell isn't dependent on how many people think you're impressive. At the end of the day, the only way to stop chasing approval is to decide right now that who you are as you are is enough. Music, not when you're thinner, not when you're more successful, not when you're finally stopped making mistakes. Right, music now. Because the truth is, you don't find belonging by earning it. You find it by choosing it. Here's what I found in my research. People who rely on external validation for their self-worth are in a constant music state of emotional exhaustion. Why? Because the goalposts keep moving. Today you might feel loved because someone music praised you. Tomorrow they're too busy to notice. Music! And suddenly you're questioning everything. That's a self-worth trap. The only way out is to build a foundation that isn't dependent on likes, music applause, or acceptance from others. This is one of those things we know intellectually, but struggle to live out in real life. We tell ourselves, I don't need validation. But the moment we don't get a text back, the moment someone doesn't acknowledge our effort, we feel that familiar pang, rejection, insecurity, doubt. And it's not just in our heads. Studies have shown that when we receive praise or approval, our brains release dopamine, the same feel-good chemical associated with rewards, pleasure, even addiction. That's why it feels so good when someone acknowledges us. But the flip, music side, when we don't get that hit of approval, our nervous system registers it as a loss. And if we're not careful, we start chasing validation like a drug, needing more and more just to music feel okay. So, let's talk about what this actually looks like. Music. Maybe it's constantly checking your phone, waiting for a response that will tell you you're important. Music. Maybe it's over-explaining yourself just to make sure no one misunderstands or disapproves of you. Maybe it's saying yes when you're exhausted. Music. Because the idea of disappointing someone feels worse than burnout. And maybe this is the sneakiest one of all. It's shaping your life around what you think will make other people love you rather than what actually makes you feel. Music alive. That last one? That's where we lose ourselves. Because if you spend years chasing love by becoming what others want, you end up with a life that might look good from the outside, music, but feels empty on the inside. And the worst part, even when you do everything right, even when you become the version of yourself that people seem to like, you'll still feel that little voice inside whispering, is this music really me? Here's what I know. People who feel truly loved, who have deep self-worth, don't get there by winning approval. They get there by deciding on their own terms that they are already worthy. Music. That means not outsourcing their confidence to someone else's response. It means learning to validate themselves, music, instead of waiting for permission to feel good enough. And that's where the real work happens. This is not about music pretending we don't care what people think. We do care. We're wired for connection. But there's a big difference between valuing connection and making your self-worth dependent on it. Music. The goal is to get to a place where validation feels nice, but it's not necessary, where love from others feels beautiful, but not like oxygen. Music. Because when you know your worth, love becomes something you share, not something you chase. Most of us operate with this hidden belief, if I just do more, be more, achieve more, then music, I'll finally feel enough. But here's the kicker. There's no finish line. Perfection is a myth. Music. And chasing it is a guaranteed way to feel unworthy. The people who genuinely feel loved, music, they don't get there by proving themselves. They get there by embracing their imperfections, by understanding music, that worthiness is not something you earn, it's something you claim. This is one of those sneaky traps that so many of us fall into without even realizing it. We tell ourselves that once we hit the next milestone, get the promotion, lose the weight, buy the house, find the relationship, then we'll feel secure. Then we'll finally relax music into feeling loved. But the truth is, that moment never comes, because as soon as we reach one goal, another one, music appears. The voice inside our head says, okay, but now you need to do this, and this music, and this music, and this. This isn't just a personality quirk. It's a cultural conditioning. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to earn our worth, be more productive, music, be more successful, be more likable. We are taught to measure our value in achievements, music, in approval, in how much we can prove we deserve love. But here's the thing, love and worthiness don't work like that. They are not prizes handed out to the best performers. Music, they are not rewards for getting everything right. What I found in my research is that the people who feel the most at peace with themselves, the ones who move through the world with a deep sense of being loved, music, are not the ones who hustle the hardest for approval. They are the ones who have learned to sit with themselves. Music, with all their imperfections, and say, I am enough as I am, not when I achieve more, not when I look different, right now. And I know that music sound almost too simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. The idea of feeling enough, music, without earning it, goes against everything we've been taught. It requires unlearning music, years, sometimes decades, of messages that told us we had to prove ourselves to be worthy. Think about it. Music. When was the last time you allowed yourself to rest without guilt? When was the last time you did something purely because it brought you joy, not because it made you look good or added to your list of accomplishments? When was the last time you sat with yourself, music, in complete stillness and didn't feel the urge to fix, improve, or justify who you are? For so many of us, the answer is, I don't remember. Music. Because we've been running so fast toward this idea of enough that we don't even know what it would feel like to stop. But here's the truth. If you don't believe you are enough now, no amount of approval, success, or achievement will ever convince you. You'll keep moving the goalposts. You'll keep thinking love is something you have to earn. The shift happens when you decide to stop waiting. When you stop looking for some external marker to tell you you've made music, when you finally let yourself believe, not because you've done something extraordinary, not because you've proven yourself, music, but simply because you exist, that you are already worthy of love. The way we talk to ourselves matters. Music. If your inner dialogue is a constant loop of you're not good enough, you're not lovable, you're training your brain to believe it. But when you start replacing those thoughts with, I'm enough as I am, not when I lose weight. Music, not when I get the promotion, not when I get the promotion, not when someone finally sees me. But right now, that's when everything changes. Most of us don't even realize how brutal we are to ourselves. We think, oh, it's music, just how I keep myself in check. Or if I don't push myself, I'll never improve. But let's pause for a second and ask, will you ever talk to someone you love the way you talk to yourself? Would you look at your best friend, your partner, your child, and say, you're not enough? You'll only be lovable when you've achieved more. Music, look better, done better. Of course not. That would be cruel, and yet we do it to ourselves, music, every single day. This isn't just a mindset issue, it's neurological. Research shows music that the brain is constantly rewiring itself based on our thoughts. If you tell yourself over and over again that you're unworthy, your brain starts treating that as truth. Music, forms neural pathways that reinforce shame and self-doubt, making it easier for those thoughts to fire again in the future. Music. But here's the good news. The brain can also rewire itself in the other direction. Music. It can learn a new script. It can be trained to recognize self-worth. Music, but, and this is important, self-love isn't about standing in music, front of the mirror saying, I love myself with forced enthusiasm. That's not how rewiring works. Music, it starts with the smallest, quietest shifts. It's about catching yourself in the act. The moment music, you think, I'm not good enough. Stop. Interrupt that pattern. Ask yourself, would I say this to someone I love? If the answer is no, change the music thought. Maybe you don't fully believe I am enough yet, but you can start music with, I am learning to treat myself with kindness, or I am allowed to exist without proving my worth. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. Because the moment you start noticing the script you've been playing in your head, you get to decide if you want to keep it. You get to rewrite it. And here's the most powerful music part. The way we speak to ourselves shapes how we show up in the world. If you constantly tell yourself you're not good enough, you'll live in a way that reflects that belief, holding back, staying small, music, hesitating to ask for what you need. But when you start changing that inner dialogue, when you start replacing criticism with compassion, music, everything shifts. You move differently. Music, you love differently. You start choosing relationships, careers, and experiences that align with your worth, rather than ones that require you to keep proving it. This isn't easy work, music, but it's necessary. Because if you don't rewrite the script, you'll spend your whole life chasing love and never, music, truly feeling it. Not because it isn't there, but because you never let yourself believe you deserved it. And that belief, that's where everything begins. The most deeply music-connected people, the ones who truly feel loved, are not the ones who seek it the hardest. They're the ones who give it the most freely. Not in a way that depletes them, not in a way that music begs for reciprocity, but in a way that reflects the love they've already decided they deserve. Music. This is where everything shifts. Because when we think about love, we often frame it as something we need to get. We ask, am I lovable? Will they accept me? Music. Do I measure up? And that thinking makes us passive. It turns love into something we chase. Music. Something we wait for. Something that feels just out of reach. But love, real love, doesn't work like that. It's not something you wait to receive. It's something you wait to receive. It's something music you become. Think about the people in your life who make you feel the most loved. Music. Chances are they're the ones who love themselves in a quiet, steady way. They don't walk into a room desperate for attention, measuring their worth by how others react music to them. They walk in knowing who they are. And that knowing creates space for connection, space for joy, space for relationships that aren't built on a constant hunger for validation. And here's the irony. When you stop demanding love as proof of your music worth, you actually experience more of it. Because now you're not filtering every interaction through the lens of, do they love music me? Am I enough? Instead, you're moving through the world with the confidence that love is already within you. And when you have that kind of self-assuredness, it changes how you love others. You don't love from a place of scarcity, music constantly scanning for rejection. You love from abundance. You give without fear. You connect without desperation. Music, this isn't about becoming indifferent. It's not about pretending you don't care what people think. It's about releasing the grip. It's about trusting that love isn't something you, music, have to beg for. It's something you create first within yourself and then in the way you show up for others. And when you do that, love stops feeling like a fragile, fleeting thing you have to earn. It starts feeling music, like home. So, here's the truth. You don't have to keep chasing love like it's some rare, elusive thing that only the most perfect, most accomplished, most approved people music get to have. Love isn't out there waiting for you to earn it. It's already here, already within you. And the moment you stop looking for it in external validation, the moment you stop tying your worth to approval, achievement, or perfection, that's the moment you actually start feeling it. Because real love, the kind that sustains us, the kind that makes music life rich and meaningful, isn't something we win. It's something and when you stop hustling for it, when you stop needing it as proof of your worth, music, you'll finally understand you were never unlovable. You were never lacking. You were always enough. So here's my challenge to you. Walk into the world today as if you are already loved, because you are. And when you believe that, everything changes. Music, good luck. You've got this.